Welcome, contenders. We just finished with Clashground Pasay over at the World Trade Center here in the Philippines. It was a very exciting event. Everyone is so competitive, and I had a great time participating. I honestly had fun playing the game with Somewhere in Pasay as a permanent. Players didn't focus on being able to ramp our resources, and decks that didn't have good draw power are more viable since you can use Somewhere in Pasay to resource instead of using your hand cards. Of course, that strategy has its own drawbacks, like resourcing a key card, not getting the color you wanted, and being one resource behind your opponent. Turn 1 to 3 also became more interactive because players are no longer focused on ramping on turn 2. Somewhere in Pasay even opened up at least 4 cards in everyone's deck because they played ramp. That doesn't sound much, but trust me, it actually is. I also feel like the gap between going first and second decreased because we weren't ramping from turn 2. Before I start with deck profile, I want to discuss the PH meta first. I actually agree with this list for set 4. The main contenders to watch out for are Torque, Genesis, Warcry, Krong, and Depth. Torque, Warcry, and Krong have repeatedly entered the top 8 at major tournaments and have a strong following among the experienced players. That is also plenty strong. It has all the tools that Krong has and 30 health. We already know how strong Genesis is at one pro tour at the 2 different places. Yeah, sure, it can't snowball the game anymore because of somewhere in Pasay, but being able to toolbox from your resource is still plenty strong. With that in mind, I started brewing for a build that gave me the best chance to the top. Green almost has it all, and everything it doesn't have, blue provides. So I went for the same green-blue Genesis build I used in Pro Tour, with some adjustments to adapt to the Clashground meta. We have 4 of each removal: Kagan, Plaguebreaker, Infectious. I run a single copy of Mayhem Maker in case our opponent doesn't provide us with a target for Lin, and it's also a good cycle card for turn 2. Apex Swift Fighter kinda counts as removal. It lets us engage target cash card for us to bonk with Apex or just prevent our opponent from obstructing. We're running 3 Tyrants for back row removal and 4 Shocking Revelation to reset the board and take away our opponent's follow-up play in case we find ourselves losing. 5 Clash Grounds because Victory Peak and Grand Park Chicago is a pain in the ass to deal with. We're running 3 Amazon Rainforest as our main class ground remover because it's one resource and lets us draw a card. Wasteland is our endgame clash ground. Once per turn, we can bounce a 4 CC or less clash card we control. The clash cards we want to repeatedly bounce are Infectious and Nanite Assassin because they're 1 CC and have strong effects when played. 3 Disrupting Presence to keep us out of lethal range and silence one of our opponent's clash cards. For beat sticks, we have 2 Oppressors, 2 Lone Fighters, 3 Devious Serpents, and 4 Nanite Assassin. Oppressor also serves as a damage mitigator during the late game. We're running 4 Anti-Genesis cards, 1 Dragon Helm as our legendary, 1 Impenetrable Armor, and 2 Diminishing Might. Diminishing Might, if equipped to the contender, gives you the ability to pay 3 blue resources to remove all of your opponent's effects and ability. So this basically locks out Genesis from using his resource to toolbox. Impenetrable Armor prevents our equipped Clash card from being sent to Oblivion, which means even if they play Shocking Revelation, we'll still have a card on board to deal damage. Dragon Helm serves the same purpose as Impenetrable Armor, but only for Kagan and with Safeguard. We have time to set up either weapon since the game has a turn 2 and turn 3 because somewhere in Pasay. Lastly, 4 Augmented Reality for our Clash Buff Clash Draw. For our sideboard, we have 4 I Am Creation, 1 Oppressor, 3 Disruptive Arrival, and lastly 2 Magnus Plant. The objective of the deck is to keep the board in our favor by removing our opponent's clash cards and key accessories at the same time, making them deal damage with our clash cards. With this deck in this format, you always want to mulligan for all of your 1 CC cards. I usually keep 1 Shocking Revelation if I find it in my opening hand to guarantee I can play it at least once in the game. It's actually a good strategy to attack with your contender when the board is empty. I've had numerous games where I barely got lethal, and the main contributor was actually my early pokes with the contender. Against Torque, I take out Dragon Helm and Impenetrable Armor for 2 Magnets plan, just to increase the chances of drawing into accessory removal to take out my opponent's Crimson skills. I also took out 1 Amazon, 1 Nanite Assassin, and 2 Diminishing Might for an Oppressor and 3 I Am Creation. Oppressor is a massive counter to Torque because it can prevent non-clash damage just by paying a resource. Torque would need to jump a lot of hoops to remove this on the board. Being ahead in resources is still an advantage. That's why I'm running 3 I Am Creation against this matchup. There's still a chance they could resource something important by using somewhere in Pasay to catch up. Against Krong, Death, Flare Warcry, and aggro decks in general, we can swap Dragon Helm, Impenetrable Armor, and a copy of Wasteland for 3 copies of Destructive Arrival. Destructive Arrival is a great anti-aggro card because it only costs 1 resource to play and sends the attacking Clash card to Oblivion. I also considered Magnate's Trap since it also made my opponent discard a card, but I found that the condition for Destructive Arrival is more common. It's also a great counter for Death the Dreadful because they won't be able to trigger their trigger defeat, and Flare Legendary because it has 0 attack. Diminishing Might is also useless in these matchups, so you can swap it for Oppressor or I Am Creation. If you run into a death player, you might want to keep Dragon Helm or Impenetrable Armor since they still have I Am Demise to send your Clash card to Oblivion. Well, that's it for this deck profile. If you have questions or want to know how to deal with certain matchups, leave a comment down below. I'll try my best answering them. Thank you for watching. Until next time.